everyone. Welcome to day 18 of the book The Absolute Law of Karma, written by our Param Pujya Gurudev Pandit 𝗢𝐴𝐴. Till now we have read about the three different types of karmas, which are the Sanchit karmas, the Prarabdha karmas and the Kriyaman karmas. Today we move on to another topic which is titled Welcome the Sufferings. Distress is an unwelcome phenomena. Its immediate experience is bitterness. Nevertheless, ultimately it is meant for the well-being and happiness of man. Distress is an extraordinarily effective mechanism provided by God for rectification of evil traits and augmentation of positive values. Life is a blissful and self-enlightened spark of the Supreme Being. He or she has self-created this world, which is intrinsically blissful. The brief interludes of unhappiness in life are provided to give the needed momentum to the progressive evolution of the soul by reminding the being about the true purpose of life, which is awakening to its original nature as a spark of the divine. Here Gurudev is trying to explain to us that even though distress or pain or sufferings are not welcome at the first reaction, but they are extremely important in the overall mechanism provided by the Supreme Power in order to realize us the value of the good moments. So what if the unhappy moments, do not exist, then we will not realize the value of the happy ones, because intrinsically our lives are supposed to be infinitely blissful at all times. The concept of Sat, Chit and Ananda that we have read about earlier. But sometimes when unhappiness in life comes, it provides the needed momentum which is lost in the day-to-day mundane routines, because whenever there is something that goes off track, or whenever there's something that happens that is not planned, or whenever there is an adversity that we did not foresee, we are forced to think differently, to change our thinking patterns, to change our conditioning, to change the way we respond, to change how we face it. And that is where the real teaching or the learning of that unfortunate event lies. Events producing unhappiness in life are few and their impact is self-evident. Nevertheless, we must remember that whatever little suffering we come across is the result of our own forgetfulness of our divine nature. Being a spark of the blissful Supreme Being, the soul is intrinsically blissful. Nor is there any natural unhappiness in the basic structure of the cosmos, which is orderly and harmonious. So here again, Gurudev is trying to explain us that if there is any unhappiness, it is either a result of our own karmas or our own forgetfulness of our real nature, or our own distance from living in soul consciousness, which is very harmonious and orderly and always according to law in a blissful, happy state. Do not be afraid of the misfortunes which create unhappiness. Do not lose your mental equilibrium. Face misfortunes boldly. Instead of getting worried or uneasy, be prepared to sail through them. Embrace misfortune as though it were an ill-mannered but warm-hearted friend who uses foul language, makes unpleasant criticism. Nevertheless, when the misfortune goes away, it leaves behind the gift of a large treasure of wisdom and insight. So here Gurudev is trying to tell us that even though at the first the misfortune makes us lose our mental balance, our emotional equilibrium, but when it goes and when we look behind after the storm has passed, we always realize that how strong we were, or what was that strength that was taking us through this time. Sometimes you might have heard people say, "Pata nahi wo samay kaise nikal gaya." We don't even realize how that time passed or what kind of exemplary strength overcame us. And these are the moments in which our awareness is exponentially increased, our insights are expanded, and our own wisdom about self, about others, about situations, about life in general is also enhanced. Hence, we must treat it as a blessing in disguise or an unnecessarily evil, or as Gurudev describes here, a friend who is warm-hearted but ill-mannered and uses foul language. Even though that in the first impression it doesn't sound very pleasant, but it is always good to have some of those. Like a brave soldier faces misfortune defiantly and says, "O oncoming misfortunes, you are like my children. I am your creator. Therefore, I welcome you with open arms. You are my legitimate offspring. Therefore, I won't disown you. You're free to play in the courtyard of my life. I'm not a coward. I won't shed tears in desperation on meeting you. I'm not morally so bankrupt as to avoid paying for my own misdeeds. Being a creation of that supreme being, I'm a spark of that absolute truth, absolute benefication, and the absolute virtue. Come, ugly products of my ignorant karmas, come, I have courage to accommodate you in my life. I don't need help from anyone. You have arrived to test how courageous I am. I am prepared to face you." Here Gurudev gives an example of how the soldiers who have to fight on a daily basis for the price of their own life, or either the motherland or for the protection of the citizens of the nation they serve, are always on the job of facing misfortunes, sufferings, adversities, and extremely dangerous situations on a daily basis as a part of their job. So before they are inducted into their job, they are made so very morally strong that no misfortune that they will face will be bigger than their courageous nature, than their strength, or than the ultimate goal of being able to be the protector of the nation. And that is how they are able to face everything and be prepared for it head on. Friends, do not commit blasphemy. Don't ever say this world is bad, wicked, unvirtuous, or full of unhappiness. In this world created by God, each element is a masterpiece. Nothing is bad in the holistic view of creation. If you blame the creation, you are also casting aspersions on its creator. Saying that the pot is badly made means commenting on the proficiency of the potter. How dare you underrate the qualification of your omnipotent father or mother? When you say that this world is full of misery, you are casting aspersions on the integrity of God. In this celestial creation, there is not an iota of unhappiness. Our ignorance itself is the cause of our bad karmas and consequent miseries. Come, let us cleanse and purify our inner selves of our evil thoughts and wickedness, so that we are totally and finally released from our miseries and acquire ultimate deliverance. So here, if we constantly are questioning, complaining, criticizing, or comparing things, we are actually raising questions on the Creator's integrity. We are raising questions on that supreme, on that universal power, on that divine parlance that has created this world. And in turn, we are questioning a lot of why in the process, why this happens, why this happened to me, why such a misfortune came in my way. But we are never able to look beyond that if we keep such an attitude. So if we consider sufferings as a blessing in disguise, we will be able to see the bigger picture, which is not so bad, which is not full of unhappiness, which is because we must remember that it is at the end our own karmas that are resulting these fruits in the way we are able to perceive. If the same situation is perceived badly and less badly by someone else, then it is the result of their own karmas. So here Gurudev is trying to instill in us and help us make a resolution that we will not let our evil thoughts, our lost mental equilibrium or our low emotional states come in our way to not realize the real values of increasing our strength, courage, and the fortitude with which we are able to face adversities as a result of these karmas. Because in the end, each and every single element of this universe is a creation of God, and every creation has a meaning behind it. Why such a thing exists is the only reason why it exists and comes in front of us as a suffering is because it is coming to teach us something. If we have not learned that lesson, that thing will continue to come again and again in our lives as a suffering or as a misery or as something unpleasant. If we learn that lesson and if we raise our vibration to a higher frequency after that lesson has been learned, and if we are able to become a step closer to that divine nature, a step closer to that eternally blissful state by learning our lesson out of that suffering, that is when we cease to see that situation as a suffering, or we stop to experience the unhappiness that once we perceived it as. So, in the end, I would only like to say that do not regard sufferings as something evil, but rather welcome them. They are blessings in disguise. And जैसा कि गुरुदेव ने कहा है, मनस्थिति बदलेगी तो परिस्थिति अवश्य बदलेगी, which means if we can change how we perceive the situation, we will be able to change the situation itself. And how can we change the perception of the situation? Only by realizing that whatever has come in front of us is the result of our own karmas, because the Antahakaran inside us, the Chitragupta inside us, our own subconscious mind, the Atma inside us, which is the super most impartial entity, has been recording our karmas from time immemorial and is therefore bringing these things in front of us so as to make sure we change our perception, we take those learnings which are necessary for us to become one with the Paramatma. Thank you everyone for listening in today. Pranam.
हमारे YouTube चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और बेल आइकन पर क्लिक कीजिए ताकि आने वाली सभी वीडियो की नोटिफिकेशन आपको मिलती रहे। आप सभी को बहुत बहुत थैंक यू।